What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to the Perspective Chasers podcast. I am your host, John. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing understanding is fluid. And I'm going to start this episode with a quick disclaimer that this is just my opinion and my understanding to try and give me as much freedom to talk as possible. I'm talking from my point of view in life and trying to share that with you. So please try not to take anything personal from anything I may say in the next however long. I'll start the episode as always with a little update on behind the scenes. Editing seems to be going alright. I still need to look into a little bit more technical editing, I think, just to put out overall a bit of a better quality. I'm starting to experiment with a few things and look into how to do things a bit better, but it's all still a learning curve. I feel like sitting down and recording the episodes now has become a bit of a routine. So like I said last episode, I'm actively looking for time to be able to sit down, record and edit. And I think roughly, if I'm doing a solo episode anyway, it's probably about 2 hours, including recording and editing, because it's minimal editing and because it's me just talking as much as I can, essentially. There's not too much to edit in that sense. There's not loads of cutscenes, and I try not to swear or anything, so I don't have to really edit that out too much. So that side of things is making it quite easy for me to get episodes recorded, produced, and waiting to upload. So hopefully that means I'll be able to increase how frequently I do this, and the more I do it, hopefully I will become better and better and more comfortable over time. So in that sense, behind the scenes is going pretty well. I'm happy with how things are at the minute, and I'm looking forward to pushing on. There is still doubts in my head and everything else. They come and go, but the main thing is I know that if I stay this course and keep pushing forward, there's something there. At least I believe there is. It just takes that persistence in order to break through. It's not going to happen overnight. And even though I'm sitting here trying to talk to you guys about my life and my life experience, it's still ongoing. So things are still changing. I'm still learning as I go, much like everyone is through life. So I'll keep sharing as much from that journey as I can, but that's all I can do really, is kind of share as I learn from that. So to get onto the main topic of understanding is fluid, this really is kind of where I center my outlook from. Things are always going to change. There's always going to be new information or new scenarios or something that you haven't been in before that is going to change your understanding that was previous. And it's going to happen all throughout life. The more conscious you are that your understanding will change, the easier it is to let go of certain beliefs. Again, it's not to say that be a glory hunter in a sense, but it's to say that understand that what you know now is what you know now. Tomorrow's insights could completely change how you see things. Life is always changing and you're forever evolving. The world is forever evolving. If you don't understand that you need to change with the times, you'll get left behind. That is the kind of argument of evolution in that sense, that things will always change, and the strongest or the most adapts, the most well-versed is what survives. We need to do that throughout our lives with our understanding, because if you hold on to an outdated understanding or an outdated ideology, you're going to get left behind. Things are always going to be moving forward. So unless you can constantly switch with the times, you're going to struggle. And the times ain't going to take into account that you don't want to change. At the time that the internet came, there was God knows how many people that didn't believe in it, that thought it wouldn't replace what was existing. Look at us now. The majority of our lives are on the internet. Things are constantly changing. Now there's generations growing up never knowing a life without internet. There'll be a generation in years to come that will know something the next stage, probably AI, never knowing a life without artificial intelligence or general intelligence. These goalposts are always going to move, and we need to move with them. The more you can move and adapt with the times, the more that you can flourish with the times and kind of move with that ebb and flow rather than trying to fight the tide. You're never going to stop things from progressing or stop the world from turning. Everything will find its way eventually. One way or another, things are going to happen. There's no scenario in which nothing happens and everything just stops and the world is still. So you can't be still. Your understanding can't be still. Your outlook on life can't be still. There are things that are forever going to change how you experience life, how you view life, how you view people, how you view the people close to you. It's all forever changing. Again, if you wake up every day and you're blowing hot and cold and you never know whether you're coming and going, it's going to get frustrating to the people around you and probably yourself because you don't know how you're feeling yourself. So like with anything, there's moderation. There are times when you need to hold on to your ideas and times when you need to let go, but you need to be wise enough to know the difference. Nobody else is going to know how you're all going to live a good life. By all means, people can give you their ideas and their experiences, but one person's happiness isn't necessarily another's. We don't all want the same things in life. My idea of happiness probably won't satisfy a lot of people, but it would satisfy me. That's my happiness, and their happiness wouldn't satisfy me. So if we're all trying to achieve each other's happiness, no wonder nobody's satisfied in life. Like, have the self-belief to break off and pursue what makes you happy. There's only so much life that you get to live. So don't squander it trying to live somebody else's. Live your own. They're having their experience. Go have your own experience. Do things your way. I think that's what is so fascinating about people. That we are all so different, but yet we are all so similar. Sorry, it's very hot in here. We're all so different, yet we're all so similar. And that's where people are interesting. It's the fact that we could all be clones and copies of each other. But where would the fun be in that? To me, it's fascinating to meet people from other walks of life and other life experiences and see how they handled things and how they went through life. Because they will approach a problem in a way that I never would, which is going to help deepen my understanding. And I'm going to approach problems in a way that they never would, which will help deepen their understanding. And that constant feedback of symbiosis, of working together in harmony to make each other better, that is what I feel the world should strive for. And to get there, it's not going to take one person's way. Even my way isn't going to be the way to get there necessarily. It's going to take a combination of many people, potentially many forms of intelligence, in order to create a world that is harmonious for all life, not just one type of life or one area of life. These forever changing times don't have to be a bad omen. It's easy to think that times are going to be bad, and yeah, things can be used for evil or nefarious means, but at the same time, they can be used for good as well. It's always going to be that back and forth in life. So if we can focus on putting the emphasis in the good rather than the bad, hopefully we can strive to that harmonious times and those more positive interactions. To get back on topic, because I kind of went off on a little tangent there-ish, I guess. But I quite like doing this. Like I say, this gets a lot off of my mind. It is really hot in this room. I should have opened a window, but I don't want the mics picking up background sound of anybody going past outside. Righty, rah. But to get back on topic, you're going to learn things each and every day that can change how you view life, how you view the world, how you view people. And the more that you can pivot with life, the more you're going to find less resistance in your life. Because it's when you're trying to push upstream and when you're trying to hold against the tide, that's when you're going to find those hard times. And like I say, there's going to be times when it's worth fighting the tide, where it's worth pushing through and it's worth going against the grain. But that's not going to be all the time. Eventually you're going to need a break. Eventually you're going to be wrong. No matter how intelligent you are, no matter how well versed you are in life, there is going to become a time in any walk of life where you're wrong. And you need to have the self-perspective or the self-understanding to look back at those moments and have a bit of self-analysis and a bit of self-reflection to see where you can change and where you can adapt and where you can evolve. Even if you are doing things great, by all means, hats off to you. But you can still improve. And that's where I am kind of with my schedule at the minute, to relate it to a real world scenario. It's now I've started this and now I've kind of pivoted in life where I'm doing the podcast and I'm trying to make time to record and everything else. I'm trying to fight the tide of my natural schedule and my natural kind of urge to have a bit of time to myself and a bit of ease in my schedule. But if I fight that tide for a little bit and push through, it becomes a part of my normal cycle and it's no longer fighting the tide. And now I'm getting to a point where I'm sitting down and recording more frequently and it's building up from there. So fighting that tide, going against my previous understanding of how much time I needed for myself, how much time it took to sit down and do a podcast, evolving that understanding and going through the experience and the learning curve that I have in the past few weeks of doing this has helped me evolve my personality, my persona, myself into somebody that is more driven and more realistic, but also more, what's the word? I seriously lost that train of thought. I'm really sorry. I've just had to cut back in. But again, that happens. Sometimes I can't find the word, and then when I try to focus really hard on finding the word, my mind goes completely blank. I'm sure you've experienced it, so please forgive me. But this is the thing, like before with my approach to the podcast, it was that when I listen to other people's podcasts, it is prim, proper, and it's all kind of laid out. But that's, for me, that's not me. That's not my character. That's not my persona. That's not how I am. So I had to understand how to convey myself, and I'm still learning how to do that. I'm still learning how to stay on topic, for God's sake. But it's a learning curve. I keep kind of pulling myself back to that point and try to re-go over things, and that may become a problem. But hopefully I don't repeat things too much or kind of re-say the same topic, but it happens. That is life. Like I said before, I'm not trying to put out perfect content. I'm trying to put out real content. I'm trying to put out real John as I would be sitting here giving one of my mates advice or telling one of my mates a story about my life. And it's hard. It's a bit of a hard thing to learn to do, to talk to no one, but it is part of that journey. And kind of, there's so much to learn in that. Like the amount that I'm going to learn about the art of a conversation, the way to not only have an effective conversation with somebody else, but also an effective conversation and dialogue with myself. How to bring out the best conversationally in myself. That's all a learning curve, and it's all something that I'm going to learn over time. But again, wouldn't come without me changing how I was doing things, changing the routines that I had in my life, the expectations that I had of myself, and the expectations that I set on the world. Again, once this goes online and everything else, to everybody else, they're seeing it on their phone screens, computer screens, and it seems like a whole thing, a whole studio. But to me, this is a room in my house, sitting here with a camera, talking to nobody, just blurting out my thoughts as much as I can. But that's not how it's always going to be perceived. I mean, some of you may perceive it that way, and if so, fair play. But I'm working towards building my understanding and building how I approach life and conversations, and how well I apply what I learn from each situation in life to my own life. And hopefully I get better with that over time. This is kind of, I suppose, the idea of this episode is kind of the sentiment behind this whole podcast, is that there's things that I'm going to sit here and talk to people about that is going to change my understanding of life. And that is fine. It doesn't mean that I was living wrong before, but it just means that I've learned new information. Just because you discover something new doesn't mean that the previous becomes something negative. If it served you fine before, by all means. But if you found a better way, adopt the better way. There's no harm in doing that. Again, if you're changing your mind constantly and you don't let anything kind of sit around long enough to prove its concept, then it's never going to improve anything. But if you're strategic, and if you actually consciously analyze yourself and the situations and the interactions that you have in life, you can effectively draw out the lessons within each experience. You can sit down and have a conversation with somebody, empathize with how they felt in a moment and why they done what they done, or why they thought the way that they did. And you can apply that to your life and your own understandings and help it build on your life and build your view on the world. I believe that no one person can have every experience in life. So unless we're all talking about our different experiences and what we took from each experience, we're going to limit our capability of learning. And I think that's the beauty of life, is that there is so much to learn, that there is so much to experience and so much to do. And one person's experience doesn't necessarily dictate another's, or it doesn't have to be the same as another's. Two people can live completely different lives, although they're essentially the same thing at their core. And again, that's what fascinates me. It's that opportunity to be different, that chance to surprise or excite. One of my friends once described me as a Rubik's Cube within a puzzle box within a riddle. And it just made me chuckle to myself, because those complexities create intrigue, and there's having multiple aspects to yourself and being able to kind of have varying interests and keep people guessing, not just about kind of your outlook on life, but also where you're heading in life. To me, that's fun. It's kind of like a game of catch me if you can. I don't like being predictable. So for me, changing my understanding or developing my understanding is something that I look for in life. I look for the situations where I'm going to grow, where I'm going to learn. I look for the hard decisions, the hard experiences, I always say when my back's up against the wall, that's when I do my best work, because I've got no other choice. It's dig down and put in the work, get your back off the wall. And for me, that works. That's when I know it's make or break. There is no kind of if, ands, or buts. It's time to prove the concept. And that's when you find out what works and what doesn't work. And that's why, for the most part, I'll always preach to people, your life is in your hands. Because in my experience, it is. So it's down to you to take control of your life. It's down to you to take control of your understanding and your outlook of life. The more, even me sitting here rambling at you to that understanding is fluid and that you should be able to step outside of yourself to look at a scenario from somebody else's perspective or empathize with somebody else into why they acted the way that they do. That's my opinion. That's my understanding. I could come back in a few years or a few weeks or even a few days and think this is completely wrong. But it's fine. It's a capsule in time, like quite essentially now because it's on video. But even if it wasn't on video, that was me in a moment. Like I would never hold on to the past now. It's gone. So all I can do is dissect that information for what it was. Everything comes down to learning and experience. And the more that you can take lessons from different experiences, your own and others, the more you can stand to learn, and then the better you can approach life. The more people you talk to and the more interactions you have, the more information you have to form your view on the world. And to me, that's how we progress our understanding. But it doesn't come unless you let go of your current understanding. Again, it's something that is fluid, so it's going to have that give and take. Sometimes you're going to need to hold on to an idea. Sometimes you're going to need to let go of an idea. I know I've said that a few times. But I'm trying to reinstate the fact that, kind of like Dave said in the episode the other day, some of your ideas you're going to need to hold on to and take to a focus group or friends or family and say, look, what do you think? And you're going to have the belief in that idea. But once that feedback loop comes back, that's when you need to have the foresight to, or not the foresight, but the perspective to take what's being said and either act on it or not. And that applies all throughout life, not just through your own ideas, but through other people's ideas. If somebody comes to you with an idea, I done this to Dave earlier. I was talking to him about different things and I was running a few things through ChatGPT and he was like, oh, sweet, that's helped me get over a hurdle. Like, I'm going to use that for this problem that I had. And simply me brainstorming what I was doing and how I approached a problem in my life helped him overcome a problem in his life. Now, again, that's the sentiment behind this podcast and shared experience and talking to one another about what happens in our lives and how we deal with these things in our lives. So, like, that's just a simple example of how a shared experience or just talking about what you're doing with somebody can help somebody else. But I think I'm going to leave this episode there for that one. So the seed for this episode is understand everything changes. It's going to be the good and the bad. So enjoy the good while you can. And what if you're experiencing the bad, understand that it's not forever. Times will change. I'll leave it there for this one, guys. Catch you later.